Welcome back to Tommy's Tune-Ups. Today we're at my grandpa's shop and we're working on his 1970 International 1000 pickup. We're going to put power steering on it. I got my dad here to help me, but he picked up a bunch of parts down in the States. We got a power steering pump and a fluid powered steering box. So the idea is we're going to try and put that on this pickup, and we have this, it's either a 69 or a 70, maybe a 71 Travelall, but it's pretty much the exact same motor, same power steering setup. So they're side by side. We'll get the hoods open and we'll have a look. So this is under the hood of the pickup. As you can see, it's got a newer steering box on here, but there's no power steering pump. So we're gonna put that on. It's pretty clean. I don't think there's very high mileage on either of these trucks, but you know, being from the 70s, they're getting up there in age. This is the Travelall with the power steering pump mounted, and it has the steering box down there. So same engines. My dad and I were trying to figure it out. We think one's a 345 and one's a 392, or they both might be 392s. Not sure, but same block, same everything pretty much, just different size bore. So to get started, we're going to jack it up the driver's side of the truck here, and we're going to take the tire off so we have better access to the steering box. We got the tire off, and we were looking around on the inside, looking for what the next move is, and we figured that we should probably try and disconnect the steering shaft that goes to the wheel from the box. Looks like there's a little spring clip or a circlip on here. That should come off, and then this should slide back up into the sleeve. We got everything lined up and got the wheel straightened out. So hopefully we put it back together, line everything up again, and should be good to go. So we got the circlip off and tried to pull or push the steering shaft inside itself, but it wouldn't move. So I ended up taking this clamp off down here and then spread it out and slid it off the splines. We're still gonna have to take this apart because when we look at the Travelall versus the pickup, the steering shaft is shorter. So hopefully we can get that apart. But the next move for this is we're gonna have to take apart the steering linkages on the bottom of the pitman arm here. So there's one on the top and then one on the bottom. So we were able to get the one arm off that came across the bottom just by hitting the top of the castle nut through the wheel well. So then we can hopefully hit this other nut now that the bottom arm is out of the way. All right, so we got both the ball joints undone. Here's the one, got the other. So this one goes to the top, and then this one goes to the bottom here. The plan is now we're gonna try and undo, there's 3 bolts. There's one that goes inside this brace here to the fender, and there's 2 more through the frame. We're gonna try and undo those, and then take this whole steering box and pitman arm assembly and get it out through this hole. There's not much room, but we don't really have much choice. All right, so we got all the bolts out. We think we can wrestle it through here, hopefully.
Just like that. There it is.
So hopefully this is
A moment of truth.
similar or the same. The mounting holes look the same.
I think the mounting holes are the same, yep.
What do you think, Grandpa?
International's got to be right. Think positive.
It'll go. It came apart. It should go together. So we ended up taking the steering shaft out of here just to get some more room, and we couldn't get it to slide. We got it over here, leaning up against the Scout. So it looks very much the same as the one that's on the Travelall, but we just got it filled with some penetrating oil, and hopefully it'll break free so we can shorten it up and put the new steering box in and make this all nice. So there's the new power steering box put in. We ended up having to take this yoke off because the splines are slightly bigger on this box. We're not sure, maybe it was off a 3/4 ton or something, but all the bolt holes lined up on the frame, so that fit well. The pitman arm is the same. It's all going to work nice. The next step, we just have to get the power steering pump mounted to the block, and then while we're doing that, hopefully the penetrating oil is going to work its magic on the shaft, the steering shaft, and we'll get it apart. What do you think, Dad?
Well, I think we've done well.
So we got the pump mounted, and then we were trying to figure out how to line up the pulleys. The guy who sold my dad these parts told us we're supposed to run the power steering pump, or best to run it off the crank, not off the water pump. But we use a string line, and it's barely clearing. So I don't think we're going to be able to run the belt this way. You can see down there.
We may have to run it off the water pump.
Yeah. It's close, but not quite. And of course, it's not the same as the truck right beside us, but it's very similar. So here's another angle. Shows how tight everything is in here. It is pretty crazy. So we were throwing around the idea of possibly taking one belt off of the top of the water pump and running it to this shiv over here on the power steering pump, but then it only leaves one belt to run the alternator and the water pump. So that's not really the best, but it's an idea.
But it might work.
Might work.
Out of necessity.
We don't really know. We kind of figured it would have been a little bit easier than this. We thought it might bolt up and Bob's your uncle. Not quite. And of course, no trip to Grandma and Grandpa's is complete without some nice homemade date cookies. Maybe.
I think, let me wander in there. No, I don't think so. I think maybe it's just losing air out of these low tires. That might be sinking a little bit in the ground, but
So we're on
it's
the
not
quest
going to go anywhere.
Oh, a better shiv.
Hey?
So we're on the quest for a better shiv here. Oh. Got another Scout hiding here. We're hoping there might be another shiv on the motor or on the fan. It's going to help.
Couldn't do this in July.
Well, no.
Well, it's little. It's right there like a dead mackerel staring you in the face.
It's a little hammered up, but
Has it got the same bolt pattern, do you think?
we got a drill.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
Right there. I can't get that off there.
It's just an old Skidoo cover or something.
Yep. I thought it'd be a good idea to cover it up, but in hindsight,
We're saving it for this.
yeah.
Then there's that one too.
Yep. So whichever your poison.
So I guess that's what makes the most sense, eh?
Yep. Whichever one you think you can wrestle out of there, I guess. Did you bring the tools?
I did not bring the tools because I figured if I came out here empty-handed, we'd find it.
There's a goddamn water pump hose on there.
So here we are, we're wading through the bullshit because we're short one pulley. And that Scout frame here seems to have it. So we're gonna try and steal this top one, take the fan off, we'll see what we can do. But who knows? Might fit, might not.
Suppose you want me to stand over here, do you?
It's pretty
Pretty deep.
pretty deep. The scary thing is, Grandpa said,
Just randomly parked it.
yeah, I don't think so. He said, you can't do nothing, you don't have nothing. Now he's going to keep more shit around.
This is his, or mine, not his. Don't lose those bolts. You might need them.
I don't know if... I really don't know if this is going to work, but it's the right size, I think.
I think the bottom one is.
The top one's, I think, is going to come off a little easier for us.
I know, but I think it's the same size as what we have. I could be right at the line.
So we came to the conclusion that we're going to have to probably take the water pump off to swap this other pulley that we stole off the Scout. So this is what one that we had, that the guy gave us, and this is the size we need. So that way they can fit one inside the other, and it'll make everything nice. Hopefully.
That's the theory.
That's the theory. So Dad's just taking the fan off so we can try and sneak the water pump out and change these around.
Oh man.
It's going anyways. At least I think I'm making progress. I should have brought some left-hand drill bits for this adventure, but I did not. I did not envision having to drill out Phillips head screws, holding pulleys together or shivs together. But
Well, you know. Okay. You might have to help me up. Gee. Christ.
oh,
You just wait.
this is what we're getting into here. So I got
There.
one of these screws drilled out.
Oh,
We gotta drill the rest off.
decrepit.
Unfortunately. I pour drill bits here, just getting a workout. Whew. Stinking.
I think that's the bottom of the rad that's falling apart.
Hi, Grandma.
If we knew, we'd be a lot happier.
So Dad got the fan shroud off here and the fan removed so that way we can try and take apart this pulley stack. But of course, these two shivs are mounted with Phillips head screws. Don't know why you can see them, but no idea why International would do something like this.
It's kind of like the 5-blade fan that I can't imagine how they would ever get balanced
Yeah.
or why you would do that. But that's factory.
And the one on the Scout was a 4-blade.
It's only 4-cylinder.
So it's kind of where we're at now. We're going to try and get these Phillips screws out, but don't know. We don't want to remove the rad, and we're trying not to take any hoses apart. By some grace of God, we were able to get those all undone, so they just came out. Grandpa did say this truck came from Calgary, though, so that's probably why it's not all rotten like everything we see here in Ontario.
Has been road sprayed with salt and beet juice. And
Whatever they put on the roads these days.
if you look at that screw from 1971, right? They don't even make them like that anymore.
It's 55 years old.
You didn't loosen those up enough. They're not quite finger tight.
Oh yeah. We're getting lucky here. Screws came out.
So there's the outside.
Look at that. Still black paint on it.
And there's the inside. And see how that's flat and that's offset. And then they go together.
We're going to put the small one on the very inside to line up with our power steering pump here.
But we do have an option of going to the outside.
Yeah.
Because the ones we have a deeper offset still.
Yeah.
But we now have options.
After a good amount of drilling, we were able to get this off of the old Scout water pump, which it's a Christmas miracle that's going to save the day, we think. We think. So we spent the afternoon, we got that pulley off the Scout out in the snowbank, and it lines up really well. It fits just so back in there. It's very tight clearance to the face of the water pump, but it clears, so clearance is clearance. We got to get a belt for that, so we haven't put the fan and the shroud back on, but we went ahead, and my dad went to a hydraulic shop this morning and got some hoses made. So we got those roughed in place, and then we put the steering shaft back in. Remember, in the steering shaft at the joint up at the top, there's a little ground wire that comes across the rubber for the horn. So make sure you get that put back in. But it's coming. Well, we took the pump off of here because when we were going to put the lines on, I noticed earlier that the return line, so that would be this guy, the return line fitting on the back of the pump was broken off. I was thinking about brazing it and a couple other different things, but the more I looked at it, the worse it got. So it's pretty thin, pretty eaten away, and there's a bunch of rust and little pinholes. I think it should be okay, but we're gonna try and use a little bit of the steel weld. I know we're gonna get roasted for this, but we're gonna try and glue this fitting onto the back side of the pump because it's just for the return, so it's just gotta seal it off and make sure all the oil's going back in there. Did a little bit of homemade hot rod in there and just kind of letting it cure, but I think that should do pretty well. Just had to keep it out of the threads and covered all the holes and glued that fitting right on. So it's never just one project when you come to Grandpa's. He also wants us to put these fog lights on, kind of fit the era, and some cab lights. You can't decide between this original style metal one, and then he's got these other ones that are just kind of perched up here, but they should be the other ones. So Dad was making some custom brackets that we're going to put on the underside of the bumper.
Custom is custom. That's hot.
The glue is still setting up there on the pump. Those lights are supposed to go kind of underneath the marker somewhere in here.
Like this.
Yeah. Just like the ones in the Scout.
We're going for it.
Back here at Grandpa's shop today. We've had a fresh bit of snow. It's a little treacherous to try and get in the door here. Snow's falling off the roof as we speak, but we're going to try and get inside without getting a shirt full of snow and get going again on the international pickup. So picking up where we left off here, Grandpa went out and he was able to find the proper size belt for us. But we've got everything buttoned up, tires put back on, jacks are out from underneath it. So I'll fit this belt on and then put the fan shroud back on. Fill it up with fluid, run the tires back and forth, and then we're going to try and see if we can get the truck started. Not too sure when the last time this ran was. It's January now. Obviously, Grandpa doesn't drive these in the winter, so it's probably been at least 6 months since this is fired up, maybe even longer. So fingers crossed this belt is the right size. It looks like it's really, really close, which is pretty awesome. There's the size if you're ever wondering what it is or you're trying to do this to one of your old vehicles. So first things first, we gotta shift the alternator back and get these other belts off again. We just kind of put them back on there so we could see what we were working with and making sure everything was gonna clear. Those slipped off of there. Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. So we still have room to tension the power steering pump. It's already as loose as it can go. Look at these other belts put back on. Hopefully. Should go. Okay, so there's one. I'm fussy. I like to try and line up the belt numbers. Of course, I put that belt on backwards, but that's okay. Put this one on backwards as well. Something like that. Beauty. Push the alternator tight. Push the power steering pump tight. We'll torque those down. My dad was the lucky one who took the fan off and the shroud. I'm pretty sure he had to take the fan off first to drop the shroud back in. So we're going to try and put the bottom bolts in the shroud and then slip the fan on and tighten everything up, and we'll see if this thing runs. There it is back together. Got the fan put back on, the shroud's on, everything's tightened up. Just going to add a little bit of fluid, jack up the front end, and then work the power steering back and forth, try and get the fluid to move around, and then we'll start it up. So we got everything filled up. We jacked it up in the air. Grandpa ran the tires lock to lock 15 or 20 times. So we're going to try and start it and see if the fluid level changes, how much more air comes out of there. Hopefully it's going to work for us. Try and start it, Grandpa. With a little gas on the carb. Try it again, Grandpa. Definitely needs more fluid. Yeah, try and steer it. Whoop. Shut her off. I think I overfilled it. It's puking. We got it running after a bit of a flood there. That was my mistake, but what do you do? So this fitting is leaking just a little bit. We'll have to tighten that up. But overall, pretty good project. All in all, this project worked out pretty well. Grandpa's happy. It's going to be a lot easier for him to drive. And it goes to show, if you're restoring an old ride and you want to have some other options that were available, or you want to add power steering, power brakes, things like that, you could spend the big money and buy these aftermarket kits, or if you're lucky, you could hunt down new used parts or new old stock parts if you can find them, put them on, and looks factory. It gives a old truck like this a new lease on life. I asked Grandpa, I think he said there's around 60-some thousand kilometers on it, or miles, sorry. But it's pretty clean inside. And back when things were a lot simpler. 62,000 miles on it.